The 2025 Red Sonja reboot was just released, and it's received an onslaught of mixed reviews. While the film stars Matilda Lutz, Robert Sheen, and Wallace Day are being praised for their performances, this movie has one fatal flaw. There isn't enough time to explore all the lore and mythology behind the story's premise. Let's dive into how Red Sonja actually teases a much larger fantasy universe and how this might just lead to the She-Devil's appearance in future mainstream MCU projects. The 2025 Red Sonja reboot underwent some serious changes from the original comics, but its roots are still present in the final product. Red Sonja in and of itself wasn't its own comic series at first. The character actually first appeared in the Conan the Barbarian series in 1975. Soon after, Sonja then received her own title in 1977. Conan the Barbarian has received his own films in the past, one starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and the other starring Jason Momoa. But the character didn't make an appearance in this movie, which makes sense considering it's technically a prequel. Matilda Lutz shared an exclusive interview that significant changes were made to Red Sonja's outfit in an effort to steer away from the original male gaze orientation and more towards a female empowering story. Although her chainmail bikini did make an appearance, its cameo is aimed to be more ironic than anything. However, while the changes to her overall design are evident, I think Red Sonja's costume designers did a fantastic job of combining the original costume and adapting it to fit the director's vision. These adjustments not only prove that her character works in modern times, but that Sonja is ready to take on a larger audience and expand her story even farther now that her origins have been uncovered. Red Sonja's backstory also underwent some adjustments. The 1985 villain Queen Gedrin is no longer a part of the story. Originally, Sonja's primary motivation for facing off against Queen Gedrin stems from a sexual assault. After Sonja turned down Queen Gedrin's advances, she sent soldiers to murder Sonja's family. After the attack, the soldiers brutally raped Sonja, leaving her completely desolate. In her most fragile, broken state, Sonja cries out and is answered by Skahak, the red goddess who blesses her with superhuman abilities. But this was all but scrapped, as Sonja seeks revenge for the sake of her family and her kingdom alone, which is very reminiscent of other larger-budget Marvel films. In the beginning of Red Sonja 2025, a voiceover narration states that this film takes place during the Hyborian Age, a time before recorded history. According to Conan the Barbarian's original creator, Robert E. Howard, the Hyborian Age occurred sometime between the sinking of Atlantis and the recording of history. Howard was actually a pretty big history nerd, so by creating a sort of erased period, he didn't have to worry about historical inaccuracies or conflicts with his story. Pretty smart. In one of his essays, Howard breaks down the history of the Hyborian Age, explaining that it commenced immediately following the destruction of Atlantis and Lemuria, due to a geological cataclysm. While Red Sonja 2025 is technically already a prequel, I for one wouldn't mind seeing an additional prequel going back even farther into the history of this cataclysmic event. Diving into the background of Atlantis and its destruction alone would make for a fantastic spin-off. The cataclysmic event that preceded the Hyborian Age also provides insight into Sonja's lineage. While Atlantis and Lemuria were essentially destroyed, a few survivors remained, some of which would go on to form the Hyrkanian civilization, Sonja's civilization. A film exploring the cataclysmic event that led to the formation of Sonja's tribe would make for a great prequel film. Not only could it explore the history of Sonja's people and how the world we saw in Red Sonja came to be, but the history of Hyrkanian civilization that Howard created is massively complicated, its world building rivaling that of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. The presence of man-animal hybrids, cyclops, and the inclusion of multiple gods keeps Hyrkanian mythology at the forefront of the Red Sonja franchise. In fact, in the very beginning of the 2025 film, one of the first lines of narration states that the Hyrkanian people live under the protection of the earth goddess Ashura. The main villain of the film, the evil Emperor Dragon, is also clear proof of the strong presence of otherworldly creatures. Not only is Draken himself a half-man, half-baboon hybrid, but his massive army consists of many different kinds of species as well. Other baboon men, a giant scorpion, and a cyclops all indicate that Red Sonja's world, and its inhabitants for that matter, are so much bigger than what we were shown in the film's relatively short hour and 50-minute runtime. According to Robert E. Howard's lore, the Hyrkanian people worship their tribal ancestors, as well as the everlasting sky. However, Skahak, the red goddess who grants Sonja her powers, is actually pulled from Celtic mythology. In fact, Hyborian mythology, as a whole, is heavily inspired by Celtic mythology. Skahak is considered the most powerful goddess in Hyborian mythology, thanks to the Hyrkanian people's faith in her ability, guidance, and protection. The MCU franchise is no stranger to expanding on mythological stories. Thor and Loki are a prime example of how popular certain mythologies can become within the superhero genre, meaning an entire spin-off film or series exploring Skahak's background or any of the other Hyrkanian gods isn't too far-fetched an idea. A Hyborian map is briefly seen in the 2025 Red Sonja film, although it does appear slightly different from the one that we all know from Howard's past stories. After the Great Cataclysm, the Hyborians migrated southward, creating their own kingdoms, which include Equilonia, Argos, the Border Kingdoms, Bithynia, Corinthia, Hyperborea, Koth, Nemedia, and Ophir. With each of these kingdoms, no doubt, comes a plethora of storytelling opportunities, each equipped with its own set of heroes, villains, and village heroes, just like Sonja. Whether it's Sonja herself who travels between the kingdoms, or if unique stories are explored within them, the Hyborian Kingdom leaves plenty of content to be explored in future spin-offs. Considering Conan the Barbarian also takes place in the Hyborian Age, a film depicting how the two meet and work together as a team could also make a perfect sequel to the 2025 Red Sonja film. In the 23rd issue of The Savage Sword of Conan, titled The Song of Red Sonja, Conan and Sonja come into contact while pursuing the same mercenary. So far, their interactions have only been covered in the original Marvel comic books and the 1985 Red Sonja film. However, their story needs a reboot. Jason Momoa was Hollywood's most recent Conan live-action actor, but should Red Sonja's writer decide to continue with a new sequel, a new actor could bring the Barbarian to life. However, some fans would surely ask, is it really possible to compete with Arnold Schwarzenegger version of the character from 1985? Probably not. MJ Bassett, the film's director, made some tweaks to Red Sonja's appearance, as well as her backstory, but the fact that the 2025 Red Sonja film served as a sort of prequel means that her story needs to be expanded much more. In fact, Bassett may be planning to finally adapt some of the stories found in the Red Sonja comic books, as well as the Conan the Barbarians. Red Sonja 2025 might just be signaling a whole new era for Robert E. Howard's brilliant tales. With the introduction of a new Conan and Red Sonja, after she's gotten another film under her belt aside from her prequel, the two ancient heroes could easily find themselves in the mainstream Marvel Cinematic Universe in the next few years, maybe as soon as Avengers: Secret Wars in 2027? Could the reason behind Red Sonja's reboot in 2025 actually be hinting that the character is meant for something much bigger? Despite its rocky production process and delayed release dates, Red Sonja 2025 is finally out in theaters. While it hasn't gotten the attention it deserves quite yet, it no doubt opens a whole new world of mythology-inspired spin-offs. On the other hand, while the 2025 film is technically a prequel, Sonja's story itself may also expand into something much bigger. While the Arnold Schwarzenegger films will never truly be beat, director MJ Bassett did a fantastic job of bringing a lesser-known comic character into the modern world. What did you think of the 2025 Red Sonja reboot? Does the film deserve a spin-off or possibly a sequel? Do you think Sonja or Conan will show up in any of the future mainstream MCU movies? What did you like or dislike about the new version of Red Sonja? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more theories just like these. Thanks again for watching Screen Rant, and I'll see you in the next one.